Welcome to Smut and Sensibility,
a podcast for romance readers and romance writers.
By romance readers and writers.
We are Amber,
Allie,
and Marie,
a group of learned ladies who love talking about the romance genre.
In this podcast, we will talk about our favorite books, writing craft, and how we make room for a creative life in real time.
So buckle up and enjoy the ride.
Welcome back to Smut and Sensibility. We're a podcast for romance readers and writers by romance readers and writers. And we are a group of learned ladies, as you know. I'm Allie. I'm a doctor, writer, and after-hours academic studying English, local, and social history part-time at Oxford.
And I'm Amber. I'm a corporate attorney by day and a romance reader and writer by night.
And I'm Marie, and I'm starting to think that a trip to Build-A-Bear would fix me psychologically.
I had such envy walking in the mall every time, and you see the kids making Build-A-Bears, and I would be like just smushed against the glass and like, and rightfully so, parents were like, we cannot make a Build-A-Bear every time we come to the mall. I'm like, but why?
But boy, did I want to.
But boy, did I want to.
Boy, did I want to. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining us. It's been really fun to be interacting with everybody on social media. And if you're following us, we really, really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody that actually has given us 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you have not yet, that really does help us find our audience and continue to grow this community who just loves to talk about stuff that they love.
So if you've listened to us before, you know that what we usually do next is our Book Nook section, where we each share what we've been reading lately, share our thoughts about it. We give a little synopsis, a little review. And after that, we typically go into our craft corner, where we talk more in depth about whatever theme or subject is tickling our collective fancies. This episode, we're going to do things a little bit differently. When we were planning out our episode topics, we all got to talking about particular books that have influenced us, one that we read maybe at pivotal moments in our reader/writer lives. And we thought it would be really interesting to go back to those books and reread them. Take a look at what we thought about them then, what we think about them now, and what, if any, craft inspiration and insights we can glean from them. So I've been thinking of it as a Book Nook plus Craft Corner combo platter. With that in mind, here's how we're going to do this. First, each of us are going to take a turn giving a blurb about the book we revisited, and we'll have a chance to talk about our impressions of it when we read it the first time, what impressions we have now. We'll share just kind of what's come up for us in the reread, and then we'll talk about any craft insights that we gleaned from it as writers today. I'm really excited about this one because I think the three of us picked some very interesting titles across a pretty wide range of subgenres in romance. So without any further ado, Allie, would you kick us off with your book?
Get us started, Allie. Let's dive in.
Yes. So I reread Wallbanger by Alice Clayton. So this book, I believe, came out in 2012. I came to this book after college, and this was probably the time in my life where I had a really big reader surge, and I was just reading everything, was Kindling 24/7, and this was also the time that Goodreads was just absolutely popping off, and this was, it pretty much looks the exact same now as it does back then, but it was pretty cutting edge at the time. And also book blogs were very, very big. So Goodreads was kind of an extension of people's book blogs, and then you would follow certain bloggers, and they essentially were doing what now we're doing on like Instagram and TikTok and all of those things. But blogs were kind of the original fertile grounds for the publishing industry.
The OG.
and ARC reviews. And that's sort of how I learned all about that world. So I love Alice Clayton. I have read all of her books. There are three series that she has. The Wallbanger series, and then she also has the Redhead series, which is kind of a celeb romance. And then she also has a Hudson Valley chef series called Nuts. So this was definitely like of the time. And if you look at the cover, like it's giving cosmopolitan, like Sex and the City. Like that's kind of what we're signaling here.
100%.
So the synopsis of this book: the first night after Caroline moves into her new San Francisco apartment, she realizes she's gaining an unintimate knowledge of her new neighbor's nocturnal activities. Thanks to paper-thin walls and the guy's athletic prowess, she can hear not just his bed banging against the wall, but the ecstatic response of what seems to be as loud night after night after night goes by, like an endless parade of women. And since Caroline is currently on a self-imposed dating hiatus, and her neighbor is clearly lethally attractive to women, she finds her fantasies keep her up at night even longer with the noise. So when the wall-banging threatens to literally bounce her out of bed, Caroline, clad in sexual frustration and a pink baby doll nightie, confronts Simon Parker, her heard but never seen before neighbor. The tension between them is as thick as the walls are thin, and the results are just as mixed. Suddenly, Caroline is finding she may have discovered a whole new definition of neighborly. In a delicious mix of silly and steamy, Alice Clayton dishes out a hot and hilarious tale of exasperation at first sight. And I would say that's pretty accurate. Like I said, when I read this, I had just graduated college and I was reading a lot of books kind of similar to this. And if you ever read like Jennifer Cruzy, this is kind of a similar vibe as far as how the book is structured and things like that. And I also, interestingly, was reading a lot of like British chick lit, like Sarah Manning. I loved Sarah Manning. But the interesting thing about this is a series, and the series follows the same character. So now I feel like what we have in publishing is, we have a series, but it's like interconnected standalones essentially.
Yeah.
And this is definitely not that. We have this book, and then we have, I think, 3 more for this series. And actually, Alice did like an audio only with Audible 2 or 3 years ago, sort of like an extended epilogue about what's happening with Caroline and Simon, and like dates, and Caroline's pregnant, and all of that stuff. So
That's
that was
really
kind of a fun, yeah, it was a really fun revisit. And I obviously, since I had devoured the series, I was like, obviously I have to listen to Caroline and Simon. So I think what really stuck with me back then was this book is very voicey. And that was probably the first book that I read where I don't think I could have named it back then, but now, learning about writing craft and all of that stuff, you learn about voice. But I think it was the voice that really got me, because this book literally starts with a bang. Like the first line is, "Oh God, thump. Oh God, thump, thump." Like that's literally, that's like where we're starting. Okay. And I will say I listened to this on audio when I did the reread, and the voice actor was fantastic. She really did a lot of vocalization of these of these actions behind the thin walls. So
fun.
It was very voicey, and it was a book that I remember reading and thinking, this is like what I'm missing in my life. And so that's sort of what sparked, me to start going down a bunch of rabbit holes. And I think I also really liked the bingeability and the series nature. And this was very popular, I think, in that time, because that was our 50 Shades of Grey. We're not really doing contemporary romance in like a trilogy like we used to in like the early aughts, I don't think. Unless it's like, I think romantasy does it and like fantasy does it, but like following a single couple over 3 books, I don't feel like I've had that in a long time.
Yeah, I'm trying to think too, and I'm sure they're out there, but at least some of the more popular ones or that we're seeing, it's definitely, like you said, that interconnected standalones.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's in the same world and you get to revisit, but they're just kind of guest stars, right? Like it's the new couple you're following. It might be their brother and somebody else, and then you read the second book and it's the cousin or the neighbor.
And the friend.
Yeah, right. And so it's like
they hooked up at the wedding at the end of book 1.
What's going to happen?
Exactly. Yeah, the side characters, right?
So, yeah.
Which is super fun. But yeah, that's interesting. I can't think of any other.
Same, until you mentioned it. I was like, oh yeah, that is very interesting. And how it's just so different. How like the industry changes and some things trend. And
yeah, I think this was very like of the time. Because I can think of a bunch of like, and of course it was like always like billionaire romances, that was super popular in like the 2010s. And I think that a lot of times those books were trilogies as well. I can't really think of any right now that I've read that were truly just one couple, multiple books. So that's kind of fun too, and something that's different that did stick out to me as I was rereading it. The other thing as I reread it was I had forgotten, and again, this is the voiciness, I'd forgotten that we have a sentient orgasm. So
say more about that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I need more, and get ready for whatever Allie's production level is gonna be for this.
So Caroline her orgasm is a character in this book, which I think is very funny.
Okay, so explain
so
how, because I haven't read this one. I have to raise my hand. I remember like seeing it, but somehow I missed this one. So
yeah.
Is it like a voice in her head, or is she narrating for the orgasm?
No, she's like talking to the orgasm in her head. She calls her O, and she like talks about her like throughout the whole book. And certain things she'll be like, I could feel O like sit up in her chair and lean forward.
Oh, so it's like an inner goddess.
Funny.
Kind of
Okay.
like that, but
Okay.
it's definitely another character. similar with her cat, Clive. Like he's very much like his own character. Actually, the last chapter of this book takes place from Clive's POV. So like you're seeing the couple through the cat's eyes. Like that's also something that's kind of interesting and different.
Yeah.
But yes, like we're naming body parts. We're naming orgasms. Like it's just kind of it's quirky. Like it's very voicey, and that really stuck out to me because I don't know why I had forgotten that, but I had forgotten that specific detail that we had.
Allie, be honest, in the reread when the first time she's like talking to her orgasm, you're like, what's going on and how did I forget this?
Well, I sort of was taken back. I was like, yeah, okay, that's what we're doing. But I mean, I think it works. Like Caroline is a very voicey character. She's an interior designer and Simon is a photographer. And she's supposed to be, I think, 24 or 25 and he's like 26 or 28. They do not sound like that. Like they sound like they are in their 30s. I also don't know of like late 20s people that could afford San Francisco in like the nice apartment that they're in, you know, so that's kind of also part of it as well. In general, I really enjoyed the book. Right now, things are going very fast as far as like books. It's all about pacing. We're shortening that sort of introduction lead time, which we've talked about before, like introducing characters on the page. We don't really actually meet Simon for real for several chapters, but the sort of loophole for this is that she is thinking about him constantly because he's her neighbor and she's experiencing him through him banging these different women through the wall. So like we have met him on page as a reader, but Caroline hasn't met him. And like the meet cute is literally on the first page when she's woken up in the middle of the night with his sexual exploits. She also kind of talks about the women that he sort of has in rotation. She names them different things. So there's the giggler. She calls one of them Purina because she meows.
Oh my God.
So like, again, it feels a little bit like Sex and the City kind of a vibe. Like it feels like of that time. One thing that in rereading it, so we've met Simon and they're going to a party at Caroline's boss's house. And that's where we actually see Simon again. They've already had their tense meet cute officially where she's pounding on his door and is yelling at him for being so loud in the middle of the night. And they sort of have a sidebar. And Simon says, she tells him something and Simon says, I don't like it when women tell me what to do. And I was like, Simon, my good dude, should you be so lucky? And I don't think that I felt like that back then. I don't even think I would have even noticed it because I think I was much more focused on the male gaze and trying to get attention. I mean, who wasn't in college, right?
Yeah.
Who wasn't? So I think I would have been like, oh yeah, like whatever. Or even not even have thought about it. But that was one thing that I read, and I was just like, Simon, you should be so lucky to have a woman tell you what to do.
You should
you're
sit
welcome.
down, Simon, right now. Just sit down for a moment. Sorry.
Yeah, you are welcome. And that's probably like the one line that I think I saw through a different lens than I did at that time. The only other thing that I would say is I do think because this is a trilogy, reading it now, it doesn't feel like a hell of a lot happens. And I think that is also of the time. And again, this is a multi-book series with the same characters. So we're not getting all of those things. At the end of this, we do actually get Caroline and Simon together. And it is a happy ending. And then I think that this continued and we want more like adventures with Simon and Caroline. So some of the drama actually more so happens later in the series, which is interesting. So that is something to kind of consider. And I do think that I really appreciated the strong start. Like from the first line, we're banging it out against the wall. We are transported. Like we have all had that situation where like we've lived in an apartment, you hear other people's stuff that they're doing. And so I do think that making sure that you have a very strong opening, that was something that I really took away. Because I do feel like even though this is a slower start of them meeting, it's more traditional in the several chapters before the official in-person meet cute. Like I said, she really is thinking about Simon up until they actually physically meet. So he is on page in some way or another. And I think that that's a good lesson. And even in my writing now, all of my story is all through Karina's POV. And when her and Johannes are not together, I think it's just an important reminder, like, he needs to be on page in some way or another, even if he's not physically there. We're thinking about him. And I think that's a good reminder.
Yeah, and it sounds like it really works for this context because you're seeing it through the heroine's perspective. And so she's already got this opinion formed of him. And then the actual meeting, she can sort of challenge that assumption or not. We have talked about that, about moving up the meet cute or moving it as soon as possible. And I think in this case, it sounds like the pacing wise, that really works. Because without all that setup of the wall banging, then you're just like, and this is my neighbor. Hello. Like, well,
Yeah.
Like,
and you can tell that Alice has traveled a lot. She really, like, it's immersive when we're talking about San Francisco. They go on a trip to Spain for one of Simon's work trips. That is very, like, immersive too. And I think that she did a good job. And overall, I would say I think that this does hold up. I think that you can still have a really good time reading this book. And I want to go reread the rest of the series and remind myself what shenanigans ensued and what happened. There's also some really great side characters, like, in this story as well. And it's kind of a cute setup. Like, there are her two girlfriends get together with Simon's two guy friends, but they initially reach out to the one that typically is, like, their type, but they essentially are dating the wrong guy. So then the couples, like, swap at Lake Tahoe, at their Lake Tahoe little get together. And that's also kind of a fun, cute thing. I would say that the side characters are fun and dynamic, and it was a really cute, good read. And I know why I liked it, but I would say this is definitely more genre-wise, like, I hate to use this term, but this is what they use, was like chick lit. Like, it definitely feels like that because it has a little bit of that cosmopolitan, like, Sex in the City, very, like, early 2000s, early 2010s, that type of a vibe. Yeah.
I love it. Put it on the list. I mean, just because I didn't read it back then. The TBR pile is always hungry. So
yes,
we can feed him until the end of time. Or her.
Yes. That's
all
right.
Not. Okay.
Amber.
Am I next?
Awesome. Well,
Am I
Amber.
next?
Yes, you are next.
I could
You're
have picked a more opposite book. We have Dark Lover.
Ooh.
By J.R. Ward. Did you guys ever read this? Does it look familiar at all to you? And you're like,
looked
no.
familiar. I read like the first chapter and then I was like, okay, no, I haven't read this. I was thinking of a different book. I would remember this, yeah.
So this was published in 2005. And I'm just the synopsis on the back is really short. So I'm just going to read it to set the scene for everybody. So here we go. The only purebred vampire left on the planet and the leader of the Black Dagger Brotherhood, Wrath has a score to settle with the slayers who killed his parents centuries ago. But when his most trusted fighter is killed, orphaning a half-breed daughter unaware of her heritage or her fate, Wrath must put down his dagger and usher the beautiful female into another world. Backed by a restlessness in her body that wasn't there before, Beth Randall is helpless against the dangerously sexy man who comes to her at night with shadows in his eyes. His tales of the Brotherhood and blood frighten her, yet his touch ignites a dawning new hunger, one that threatens to consume them both. Dun dun. Yeah. So when we talked about this, I was trying to go back in my Kindle and really think about what I reread. And then when I found this, I remembered it very blurry. I remember I enjoyed it and I remembered sections, but I have to admit that during the reread, I was like, there's a lot going on in here. So I read this, I think the summer of 2010. So I had just graduated undergrad and I moved back home to my parents' house in Wisconsin because I didn't have a job yet. And I was lucky enough to get a job at my dad's construction company. And I was doing roadside construction. I was that girl on the side saying slow stop. But another job I had that summer was sitting at a scale house at a quarry. So it's basically a little hut with no air conditioning. And it sounds like I just sit there and I wait for the dump trucks to come through. They go on the scale. You give them a ticket and they go by. So kind of very mundane and boring. But for a book reader, I enjoyed it so much because I could just sit and wait for whenever the next dump truck came, as long as
Sounds great.
everything. It was a lot of sweaty reading done, but also being just graduated. You're kind of don't have a lot of money. I mean, my library card was smoking. I used it so much. So I think this is when I really dug into romance because I was reading so much. It wasn't even like thinking about like what I should read or what would be perceived. I'm by myself. No one can see me in this hut. I need to entertain myself. And also I'm going through books so quickly. So I would return books and then see what was available on the shelves. I read a lot of Nora Roberts that summer as well, because she was really big. I mean, she has such a backlog. And it was always available at the library, so I could just pick one. So anyways,
Yeah, she's great.
So this is setting the scene for a young graduate. She's at her little scale house, sweating up a storm, reading her little library books when the dump trucks come. So I remember browsing and finding this and thinking, you know, I liked vampires. I liked Twilight, but there was definitely some themes in Twilight, or some of the characters and some things that I necessarily didn't love. But I loved the series. Like, I devoured it. Anybody who knew me at that time, like, I was excited when the movies came out. What else was I reading? Vampire Diaries, marked by PC Cast. I don't know if you remember that series. And then Vampire Academy by, I think it's Rochelle Mead. So yeah, so Vampires was there, but it was definitely more like YA. So I think this was my first, like, there's a sexy, like, we ain't hiding. Like, this is an adult sexy man on the cover. So that's what definitely drew me to the book. I'm intrigued. Vampires. Let's give it a go. There's like no investment here. It's free with the library. I've got nothing but time. So when I first read this, I had to get another copy because I didn't have one. This was the first time in a long time I had handheld one of these little mass market paperbacks. Do you remember when these were more popular? These little
R.I.P. mass market paperbacks.
Yeah, these like little guys. So when I
know.
like picked them up at the bookstore, I was like, oh, little buddy. So that in itself was just very little nostalgic and fun. And maybe because we're writing books and we are studying craft, there was so many things that jumped out at me in this book, how the industry has changed or what we see now in popular books. And I wanted to highlight a few. And that doesn't mean anything is better now or better then. It's just really different. So number one, trigger warnings. There are no trigger warnings in this book. And there's a sexual assault scene very early in this book. So like right when it happened, I was like, ooh, just because I am now used to that. But I remember reading it back then, like I at least don't remember. It was just the norm. Obviously it's dark lover and there's a sword. So like, you know, there's going to be dark themes. I don't think it's like a misleading market or cover, but there's murder, fighting, kidnapping, references of childhood trauma, like bloody fight scenes. So again, I haven't done research, but my guess is that trigger warnings weren't a thing, or they just weren't popular or common practice. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Not at all.
Yeah, right? It just wasn't a thing. So I'd be curious. Maybe that's a deep dive we can research, or someone in our comments can be like,
that would be really interesting.
Like, when did trigger warnings start to come? And like, what was the prompting to include trigger warnings? Because I love that. So people who want to read something can make an educated decision accordingly before they dive in. Like, this sounds really good, but like, we all have our own triggers and past experiences. And there's certain things that we may or may not want to stay away from just because it just brings that up for us, whether or not it's a good plot or story device.
Agreed.
But right away, I was like, oh, no trigger warnings. And we're like hopping in hot. Another thing, point of views. There are so many point of views in this book.
The head hopping.
Yes,
yeah,
so many times. It switched not only mid-chapter, but there would be multiple switches or point of views within one chapter.
Oh, that's kind of disorienting.
A little bit. I do think J.R. Ward did a really good job that it's very clear, like the voices are so different. She did a really good job. And you said like the head talk. But it just really jumped out at me that like now that just, I mean, usually at least in romance, the main issue is, are you going to have one point of view or dual? Like, you know, between two characters. Every now and again, you might have a sprinkle of three, but really it's like one or two. I mean, you guys, there's so many. I need to go through them to show you. There's Wrath, our main male character, who's like our vampire king daddy. There's Beth, who's our main female character. She's the hybrid human who ends up being queen of the vamps. Butch, this is number 3. He's the human police friend of Beth. There's another, Jose, another human police friend. There's Dr. X. He's like our bad guy. They call them lessers. I need more fingers. Number 6, Havers. He's like a vampire doctor. And then 7 is Marissa. That is like Haver's vampire sister. And I might have missed one because, you know, I was cramming this bad boy to get it done in time for this episode.
Yeah.
But it just seemed like a lot to me. And I don't remember. That is a lot. And I don't remember that at all when I first read it. So again, who knows, maybe that was more common back then or just in paranormal romance. But that was one thing that really stuck out to me right away as well. Like, this is really, really different. And then what else? Well, some of the tropes that were just fun. I think I knew what I liked previously based off of vibes, but I don't think I necessarily knew exactly what a trope was or would identify them, right? Like you just knew you liked it and you kept going. So it was really fun on this reread to identify some tropes and to be like, oh, like again, things are recycled and reused. There's no original and people love them for a reason. Touch her and you'll die, or I'll like kill for you. Wound care or like caretaking scene. This is insta love and insta lust, which also isn't always my favorite, but I think for what this is and how you set up the characters and there's going to be more bucks, it like makes sense and I really enjoyed it. And then chosen family. And then just kind of like a summary sum up of how I think this will influence my current work in progress and how I'm writing. It was just really fun. Like I said, nostalgic, bring you back to that time and my place in my life, like how far I've come. Like we aren't working in the scale house anymore, rest in peace, but like glad I'm not, but also like, you know, just how far we've come. But I think writing styles come and go. Publishing trends can come and go. But I think even though this, all the point of views, maybe the way it's set up may not sell at a current publisher today, I don't know, maybe it will. It could have. It doesn't mean the story isn't good. So like the story, character development, the feelings it invokes is what really matters to have something stand the test of time. And this series is still popular today. In doing my little Google research, I discovered that passion flicks. I have not watched any passion flicks. Have you guys? Have you watched passion? Yeah. Have you? You know what I'm talking about? It's this.
Yes.
For listeners, it's like a movie production company that primarily focuses on spicy books, like romance books.
Yeah, romance novels. Yeah.
Yeah, and makes them into little movies, but you have to like subscribe to them. So they're their own like streaming services like Netflix. But they made this one into a movie or are currently making it. And Allie, they're also making yours.
I forgot to mention that. As you mentioned passion flicks, I was like, God damn it, I had meant to mention this.
But I saw it too. So
yeah, last year they I think it was last year or 2 years ago, they released Wallbanger and that's actually on the audio version, it's like the movie tie-in cover. So it's not it's not this cover, it's the two of them.
Passion Flicks cover.
It's the Passion Flicks tie-in cover. So
which I just think it's really cool that like the fandom has survived and is still thriving for some of these books, even though things in the publishing industry have changed. So I think in moments of self-doubt or feeling the imposter syndrome or overwhelming, like I don't know all the ins and outs of publishing, that like what really, you still have to have that foundation of like your story, your character development to have these feelings that are invoked when people read your story. Without those, it could be the perfect structure. It could be everything currently that any publishing house could want. It could be really beautiful prose. But if you don't have that foundation, I probably wouldn't be interested in it. I'm not sure if it would get picked up, right? So ideally you want both, but those things are so evolving and moving. And it was just fun to see how different it was. And this, I should have looked up. I think there's like 22 books in this series.
Oh my gosh.
It is a lot. And I know at the time, they all weren't out. And I read a few of them. Like it follows the different brothers and the brotherhoods and, you know, them finding their romantic interests. But so like, that's a lot of books.
That is a lot of books. And I just kind of back to what you were talking about, like passion flicks and kind of reviving some of these books that and breathing new life into them now 15 years later or more sometimes. I think that is like nostalgia is very much of the zeitgeist right now. Like we're all kind of looking for nostalgia. And I think that there's a reason why the 2000s rom-coms are really popular, and they still are. And even though there are very obvious differences in like how things are produced today, I think that's sort of the origin of the genre, and like you have to acknowledge that, and there is something good about it too, and there's always something that you can learn, and it's kind of cool to go back and look at the history of where did we start and where are we going. And publishing is very cyclical, and I think I've only been paying attention to it for a couple of years, but I think it's pretty common that industry experts say that what goes around comes around. Like just wait, because things will be back in popularity, which, you know, again, vampires.
Vamps are back.
Vamps are back. Vamps were not in for so long after Twilight. So it's always interesting to see where we came from, where we're going.
Absolutely. And especially interesting to see the same thing happen with different trends. Like I love looking at like trope trends, like trope development, where you take something like the sort of like touch her and die thing, and then just watching it sort of in each little decade or each little permutation of it and how it sort of adjusts, like throughout writing history. I mean, not the whole scope of history, but
the different iterations, right? Like
Yeah,
even
yeah.
in a place that like you can find it in contemporary romance where we're not swords and we're not vampires and like you expect people to be murdering and kill me. So him saying I'll kill you when I
Right.
die is
That
very
tracks.
realistic and like there. But that
Yeah.
trope now can be seen in contemporary where like he probably means it but is more of a like maybe alpha male protective, like still in a sense of a real world setting, still having that trope and making that threat without all the blood and gore and stuff. Is that's just so interesting and fun. Again, like you can use whatever trope brings you happiness and within your characters and what makes sense, and they're there for a reason. They work for a reason.
And I think all of them can be done really, really well. Even like it's such a taste thing too. For example, you brought up like the insta love, insta lust. Like a lot of people really don't like that, and I think it's all in like the delivery of it. Like or something like found family. Like I think there was a while where found family was very much a trend, at least in what I was seeing, and I just really got tired of it because I was like, I don't. You're just taking a bunch of people and you're putting them in like the Yahtzee cup, and you're just like, this is the family. No, I didn't. Like some of them just didn't
stick with you. They didn't resonate with you.
And then you
so
read other
got
ones where you're like,
exhausted.
oh yeah, okay, that. So I just find trends in trope development to be very interesting.
It is really interesting. And I think, not for this episode today, but I think it would be really interesting to look at the beginning of the genre, in like the 70s and like 80s where things were really starting to like pick up steam, and like looking where these books were. And like Amber, you had the trade, right? That's what it's called, right? No.
Mass market.
Mass market. Thank you. I was
the
we're in
mass
trade
market
right now. Yeah.
Paperback.
Your book is mass market, and I have some mass markets behind there, even from just like, 8 years ago. But they're going away now. You can make more money doing trade, so that's what we're doing. But like all of those books were in grocery stores. What was happening culturally and all of those things, and seeing where we are now, and seeing can we forecast what's going on now with what societal trends we're seeing. And knowing that there's always a little bit of a delay with the publishing industry now, that I think that would be a fun episode, like a true romance history really episode.
Fun. Yeah.
And I think including the fact that like mass market is placed cheaply and like they're manufactured more cheaply. They're on a cheaper paper stock, but most of those were done overseas. And that's changed with the way that we are importing, like the cost of paper and the way that we're dealing with imports. But also the fact that a lot of those were cheaper because they were grocery store placements. And when we talk about a genre that's by women for women, there's a big asterisk next to both of those instances. By a certain type of women for a certain type of women. Even now, like I think when I get into my book, there's the barest little basil leaf of garnish of lesbianism in my book. And I'm like, how progressive was that for
the time
2006? And the fact that
good question.
You still had like women writing books for, middle America, certain narrower demographic of what a certain type of reader would find appealing and would sell. I think this could be its own episode for sure.
Yeah,
but
it certainly could, and you're 100% right. And
about needing more diversity, right?
That's
like what was acceptable or able to be published at the time. You couldn't
even
really indie publish as much, right?
Yeah.
So like. Yeah.
If you're talking straight romance, I think that's one of the reasons why I would love to do, this is a total aside, you can cut this. I would love to
Every time you say that, we keep it. It's
I know, I tend
to
keep it because it's usually something very good or
I would love to do like a whole like dissertation on Amish romance and like grocery stores, like grocery store demographics.
Okay.
Because like that is a genre.
There's a dissertation in there for sure.
Isn't there? Like
there's something there, 100%.
Of like
you want to go back to grad school, babe?
Allie's like, jump on the wagon. This is what we're doing.
Listen, if I had any money at all. Yes, I told myself I do a degree every decade. I'm behind. Yeah, that's the thing too. Is publishing in general is just that intersection of art and business where you're like, you can write a story and you can really believe in the story, but if they can't place it, if they can't sell it, and these books are not only representative of like what people were buying.
No, that was such an important asterisk because yes, it's so true.
Yeah,
And
it's
that's
just
where
very-
the intersectional.
I think that would be, I love how we're just kind of brainstorming, but I love that maybe like the history of the genre, tropes, and then maybe talking about inclusivity. Like I know that question
Yeah,
is
like
being
what was
brought up.
happening culturally when, like, in each of these like movements, like, in the 70s, like women were getting credit cards. They could pay for that book by themselves. Who was
Yeah.
allowed to vote, I think would be really interesting to interrogate. And like, again, it would be sort of like a 10,000-foot view because you could literally dissertate on it for
Yeah,
a
we'd have to
lot.
like really hone ourselves in.
And I don't, especially in writing my essay about like women in early modern England and like social attitudes toward them, like at that time, and the argument that I made, I was like, boy, I do not have the sociology and like gender studies background that I need, I think, to move forward. So I was like, okay, I'm going to need to start looking up like syllabi for like, an intro gender studies class to be able to figure this shit out. So I definitely think that I need to kind of learn a little bit more and read a little bit more, but like we're reading a lot right now. So
Yeah, we are. And then, too, it'll be really interesting to make the comparison, or at least the point that what was popular then was not that it's not great, and it probably was good, but again, like that's all was available because the publishing had such a tight hold on things.
Right.
So, like,
right.
did they want to take risks? No. There was still, there's still racism today. So, like, even if it was a good story, don't want to publish diversity or inclusion, or they didn't have those connections. And so, like, looking back, it doesn't mean that that's only what was popular. I also think like it's very important to notice that like just as women were finally getting their independence, it was still like a narrow margin, that there were tons of other really great stories and authors that aren't available to be read at that time because like it was so narrow. So yeah, I think now we've saved the best for last. Marie, tell us what your nostalgic reread.
Classes in session.
So
Classes
I
in
chose to
session.
reread Pleasure for Pleasure by the incredible Eloisa James. This book was published in 2006. I actually don't know if I read this book when it came out. Now that I'm thinking about it, I might have read it later. But I was in a very different era of my life, as I think a lot of us were that year, than I am now.
For sure.
And I think there was an era where I was reading a lot of Regency. I haven't read that in a while, and it's nice to kind of come back to it. So I want to do a quick synopsis of it first. It is the fourth book in a series about four sisters, and this is the book about the youngest one, Josie. She's the youngest of the Essex sisters. She's been having a very difficult time in the marriage market. She's saddled with the horrible nickname, the Scottish Sausage, which, yikes.
Aww.
She has been but shunned by her peers, invited to events, never asked to dance, etc. At 18, she feels like her life and her prospects are all but over, and she is determined that if her sisters all married happily as a result of some kind of scandal and rule breaking, then that is how she is going to do it as well, if she can figure out how to get out from under their watchful eyes and who to set her marriage sights on. Unfortunately for her, a terrible former friend of the man who gave her that awful nickname has set his sights on her instead. He compromises her in the stables during the ascot. Josie runs to her sisters and is terrified she'll be forced to marry the man that kissed her. Instead, the reformed rake Garrett, Earl of Maine, who has tried and failed to marry two of the sisters and is now behaving himself for the most part, steps in to offer himself, believing that the compromising went much further than a kiss. Maine is 34. He feels he is too old and too debauched for Josie. At the start of the story, he is engaged to the beautiful, untouchable French woman named Sylvie. We're very quickly discern that their goals for their future together are not going in the same direction, and he's sort of awakening to having a dream of wanting more out of life. Now that he's on his reformed trajectory, he's like, is this all there is? And Sylvia's like, are you kidding me? Like, all there is incredible. Like, what's wrong with you? And she kind of has a point. Sylvie ends the engagement. Maine is free to play the hero and rescue Josie from this infamy. The two of them have a very brief newlywed discussion about their age gap and whether or not Josie thinks he still loves Sylvie. That's basically the end. Happily ever after. The epilogue has Josie having a baby. I'm cutting out a lot. That's essentially the plot.
As we have to do.
As we have to.
As we want to
in
do.
These,
yes.
In these times of turmoil, in times like these, we have to cut to the chase.
That's right.
I was very intrigued by this book. I remembered really liking it when it came out. I remembered really liking the whole series. I like all 4 of the sisters. I think when it first came out, there were a lot of things that I related to in the book. You know, number one is that I'm the youngest in my family. So I'm very aware of that framework of everybody thinks you're the pampered one, but really you have to live with the rules that your siblings enforced. Oh, my brother and sister don't listen to this. Hey, listen.
Hey, listen,
Listen.
these are other siblings that we have. They're secret
We all
siblings.
should be in therapy.
Not you.
You know?
100%.
Anyway, but
So wait,
that
wait,
idea of, yes.
So we have an eldest daughter
Questions?
and me. Amber, are you middle?
No, I'm youngest. I'm like
You're
Marie.
youngest? Oh my gosh, 2 youngest. Okay.
Allie's like, now I got to corral these bitches.
No. You guys
I've been
corral
told
me.
I have profound youngest child energy, and I accept that.
Aw.
I accept that about myself. So yeah, I connected with it on that level, being the youngest. Sort of, there's an age gap between me and my siblings, so I was kind of youngest child, only child, weird, freakish hybrid. But I also connected to this because there's a very strong theme of body image in this one. And Josie is described as a fuller figured young lady with bigger boobs and bigger hips. And as someone that I've never been small a day in my life, I believe my grandfather's first words upon seeing me as an infant were, "Pity those shoulders were wasted on a girl." So we started there, and we've only gotten better.
Wow. Okay.
Love you, Gramps. No, he's cool.
Is
It's all
this
right.
the Water Witch?
No, this is the other one.
Okay. All right.
This is the one who liked opera and wine. This is the Marine.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
All right.
I like him though. You know what? That's fair. Honestly,
Okay.
like I'm into it. Get into it. Big
Okay.
shoulders.
Me
Amazon
too, girl.
warrior woman. She
Yeah.
can do anything. Watch out.
Yes.
It just means that the heating pad
Yeah.
has more to warm.
The heating. Yes. I will say my also traumatic broad shoulder story is in middle school. I bumped into like one of the teachers, and then she was like, "Whoa, are you a linebacker or something?" And then I like,
Come on
think that
now.
It really made me upset for like, still.
Still, I like how she
Oh my
pauses. And goes,
God.
let's be
Still.
honest. Still,
Yeah.
still feeling that
I hate
burn.
that for you.
Yeah. So
That was
I feel
mean.
that we're broad shouldered besties.
Yeah.
Aw.
Listen, we can't help it.
We
We
can't.
just have shoulders.
We
and
do
I'm not
have
gonna
shoulders
apologize
and
for
just
that.
bodies. That
We
makes
have
sense.
bodies,
Bodies.
and we're not going to apologize, no matter what
No.
shape
No.
they are.
Yeah.
No, not anymore.
I don't know where that was going, but I love it. I love it. For
Yeah.
us.
You know.
But yeah, I
whatever.
related to this book and the body image thing and her sort of need to want agency and define herself and kind of get her life started. And she's very 18 and very like, it's all over. It's never going to happen for me. No one could ever love me. And I'm like,
Woe is
girl,
me. My
Yeah.
life is over. Lay
It's
me
very
down
that.
to rest.
exactly. And also a note as like, this is the 4th book in the series. I intentionally did not reread the prior 3 books because I just wanted to know, like, even a book in a series needs to stand on its own. And do I think you have to? Not necessarily. I think it's helpful, but I have some structural thoughts about that are kind of wrapped into other thoughts. So some things that I just sort of off the cuff thought about it. This time when I reread it, I really did not connect with this book the way that I did. There were still parts of it that when I got to it, I was like, oh yeah, I really like that scene, or oh, that's fun. Like, it's certainly not a bad book. It's fun. It has the star rating it has for a reason. Like, it's a perfectly good book, but it was interesting to me just to think about like how different, how much I've changed since I read it the first time and where I kind of was as a person and now where I kind of am now. I liked the fact that there are lesbian side characters in this book. It felt progressive-ish at the time, and it's nice to see in the historical genre. But also, I mean, where we've come, we have all kinds of historical romance novels now, including like Perks of Loving a Wallflower by Erica Ridley, A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall, Secret Lives of a Country Gentleman by Casey Charles, all of them featuring LGBTQ plus main characters. I'm glad to see that we've progressed beyond kind of a side character admitting something kind of semi in shame. I really feel like historical romance is kind of a fantasy genre, and we can play fast and loose with historical reality in other areas, and queer people definitely have existed for a very long time, and I want to see more of that. And it was nice to see it there, but it just kind of reminded me of like, oh yeah, okay, this was just this one thing over here. It's nice that we now have more of that, please.
Yeah.
I also still liked some of the elements of the way Josie's body image was handled. She is not very kind to herself at points, and she's very influenced by society standards. She compares herself to her sisters. She compares herself to the other ladies in the story, including Maine's fiance. And she's just really tough on herself, and particularly, you know, tough not just about her body and her shape, but even the shape of her face, that several times characters will say like, oh, you know, you look like a Renaissance Madonna. Like you've got this really beautiful, soft, round face. And she just hates it. And I think that it's still like, again, with the character being 18, you can understand like, yeah, I don't know anybody that was socialized as a woman through their teen years and didn't have some sort of a jump scare in a mirror situation. Like I think everybody did. If you're out there, I don't know, DM me and you didn't go through that.
And tell us all your tricks.
Tell us all your tricks, because anybody existing in a body and socialized in
and it's
modern
hard
society,
out there.
it's rough, and we're mean to
It is.
ourselves. And we say things to ourselves and we compare ourselves and we think, oh, if I only could do this, if I only could fit this way, then my life would start and then my world could be happy. And for Josie, that's sort of encapsulated literally in the fact that she has the corset, which is a capital T, capital C, the corset that this dressmaker has fitted her for and built her kind of debutante wardrobe around. And she doesn't fit into these dresses without
the corset. Okay.
And it's interesting, sort of as a little like extremely nerdy corsetry sidebar, is this is set in 1818. So we're in kind of a transitional style in between the sort of early like 1800s, 1810s, where you're thinking the very high, like when you think Regency dress, you're thinking white, sheer, the Pride and Prejudice, the 95 one, where it's very, very high up under the bust. It's that very columnar empire waist style, the little puffy sleeves and pretty high, small breasts. And it's really not about a defined waist at all in sort of 1810s. Going towards the 1820s, the waist starts to lower a little bit closer to the natural waist. In the 1830s, it really hits natural waist. But 1818, you're kind of in between, kind of transitional between right under the bust and natural waist. But it's not a hourglass silhouette. And it's heading that direction by the time you get kind of into the 80s, you're getting a much more hourglass. And it's coming out of that late 17, that very conical shape. So you can sort of see the progression of how much are we molding the body and into what shape and with what materials. And so it was interesting to me rereading this, knowing a little bit more about fashion history, that the corset is described as, oh, it's rigid with whalebone and she can't sit down in it comfortably and she can't really dance in it. And knowing that like she's described as like, oh, you know, the dressmaker told me that if I really wrench on it, I can really get my waist down and I can almost fit into one of the sisters' dresses. And I'm like, that wouldn't have happened. That isn't
wrong.
But
time.
whatever, doesn't matter. I mean, they definitely were using whalebone in corsetry in 1818, but it was a more natural shape to the body, and the shaping of the body was just that it was shaping. It wasn't constraint. It wasn't restraint. Even when you get fully into Victorian corsetry, it's about silhouette and proportion, not necessarily about extreme tight lacing. But this corset thing, it shows up everywhere. It showed up in Bridgerton. It's the same thing of like the old Scarlett O'Hara, like hold on to the bedpost and the maid like wrenches the laces. But that said, even though it kind of doesn't make sense, I think the corset, as it's almost its own character in the book, and because of how it's fitted on her, and they say like, oh my gosh, it almost comes up to your collarbones and it goes down over your hips. And because it's fitting her in like that, she does kind of look like she's packed in like a sausage. So that's kind of where the nickname comes from. And the one scene I remember really liking, and I still really liked, is there's a scene where Maine has sort of stepped in. He's kind of the family friend, the safe choice now. And he sort of steps in to rescue her from this ball scene early on. And he takes her 2 blocks away back to his place. And of course it's very like, well, we're just like this is not a problem. Her chaperone, which is his sister, has gone missing. She's off having her own tryst, which we find out more about later. And there's this really lovely scene in this, I think they call it like the Starlight Room, which sounds sort of like a lounge room. Anyway, and he gives her lessons on like how to walk seductively. And basically they get champagne, they're a little drunk, and they're up in this room that's got stars painted on the ceiling, and it's this beautiful little kind of turret room. And he's like, well, because this corset makes you like you're uncomfortable, and if women had a body like you wouldn't be able to get men, like you'd have to beat them off with a stick, not in the fun way. And he's like, take your corset off. And she's like, what? I can't undress in front of you. And he's like, no, don't worry about it, take your corset off. So she like gets her corset, takes her dress off, and he loosens her corset. And of course it's that stereotype of like, we have to do it slowly or I'm going to pass out, that thing. But he gets the corset off her and he rips her dress down the back and he puts her dress on he takes his shirt off and jacket and everything. And he puts her dress on and he's like, okay, here's how you need to walk. And he like walks towards her in like a seductive feminine way. He gives her like his dressing gown and basically like gives her lessons on like how to use her body. And I always thought that was really fun. And it was kind of a little like #gender going on where it's like, okay, we have a hero who's a reformed rake and he like observes other women. And so he knows what a man finds seductive. And so but also like what kind of a guy would be like, let me put a dress on and show you like,
yeah, let me perform this for you. Yeah, like perform this for you.
I'm into it. And I think the scene is delightful and fun. And I think that still holds up where it's kind of more like, it kind of walks the line between like, you're not beautiful until a man recognizes that you're beautiful. Like it doesn't go that way. It goes more of like, girl, you don't even know what men think of you. Like you're out here trying to impress us. That is what this is what we're looking for. It's still very like superficial.
The advice you've been getting from the other ladies in your life is wrong. And let me tell you the ways.
Yeah. And to be fair, it's a lot of the like her sisters are like, we don't like the corset on you. Like, and she's like, no, like this is going to help because then I'll look smaller. You can tighten me in and I'll look smaller. So I think that there is like, it's a very interesting exploration of body image and confidence. I will say, while it's really realistic how often this 18-year-old Josie compares herself to other women, there are times where slimmer, smaller women are described, who'd want to be with a dried up stick from a tree, a scrawny thing, or bedding a frosty twig. And that feels like very 2005.
It feels
where it's
very
like,
2005.
Hey girl boss, you want a real woman. And I'm like, I think we've evolved past the conversations around like, a real woman have curves. Like, no, a real woman is if Shania Twain says, let's go girls, and you want to go, then you're a girl.
That's right. Yeah.
Can we move on?
I love that definition.
Well, that's it.
Whoever shows up to the girl party, you are a girl, and we're having fun. All shapes and sizes.
We say, hey, girlies, assemble, and like whoever comes can come.
Yeah.
I think 2005 just really feels like the peak of, it doesn't matter what your body looks like. It's just horrible. Like that was the messaging that was being sent.
You weigh too much and then you're too thin.
Because
and
that was like Perez Hilton. That was like all of the tabloids with like Lindsay Lohan and Paris Hilton.
The ultra low ride jeans.
Ultra low ride jeans. Like, do you remember when they like absolutely skewered poor Jessica Simpson?
Oh my God.
And like she was a size 6 and people were like, oh my God, she's like obese.
And you look at that picture and you're like, what?
And you're like, she's she's like a normal woman. She is a woman. And so I really feel like that almost, I get what Eloisa James, was trying to do. And I think that body image is a thing I've noticed that kind of comes up in a lot of her stories. She also wrote like the fairy tale series, and one of them is like the Ugly Duckling. And like, there's a lot of conversation about body in that one as well. It just feels very like 2005 of like, no matter what you are, we don't like it and it's not good enough and you need to change, whether like you are quote too thin or you're not thin enough. Like everyone's always trying to sell you something and tell you that like you're wrong in every single way. And so you're just like, cool, I'm just going to exist in this space and be consumed by thoughts of people perceiving me in a way that I don't want to be perceived. And then I'm going to perceive myself negatively. Yeah. So it feels very like of the time, like that super consuming, trying to simplify, but also vilify body types, Cause like, I feel like the discourse, everything I think was very favoring traditionally very thin frames, straight up and down frames. But then I think also like, then there was the backlash of people that were like, oh no, but that's like you said, that's a frosted twig, or there was some shame associated with that too. There was just, nobody was happy about anything and nobody was ever good enough,
Yeah. So. And I draw the distinction too, like in my reread of this, I kind of have it in two categories. One is, it makes total sense, Josie or any character living in a world and looking around and being like, man, I want to look like that. Girls who look like that, they've got the thing I want. Whatever it is, they've got it and I don't have it. There's something fundamentally wrong with me. I don't have it. That I find very understandable and cohesive, and like an 18-year-old character working through, like, at 18, like your body can, you're not done yet. You're going to be okay. You're going to be
That
fine.
little prefrontal cortex
And
still has a
then
couple years left to
there's-
go.
We're still
you know?
just developing all over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, but the other half of it is more like the broader narrative of like Maine, when he's with Sylvie and he's very enamored of her and he just sees her as this pinnacle of elegance. And I think his character is like half French. And so he sees this, like, she's French, and he sees this as like elegance and taste and refinement. And he's very attracted to her for her like kind of coolness and her cool reserve. And then later when he kind of gets over her and he realizes that like they're actually not very compatible, he just kind of reduces her down to her parts. Like, oh, I didn't want to be with a frosty twig. And I'm like, brother, like, there's an apple pie and a pecan pie, and you taste the pecan pie and you're like, I like that. And then you taste the apple pie and you go, ooh, no, that's for me. You don't have to be like, fuck that pie. Just be like, I tried it and it wasn't for me. Just be like, other people might like the pie.
It still was good,
Don't
buddy.
be a
And
dick.
you,
Like,
at the end of the day, you still ate the pie.
You still had
So,
a good
like,
time, let's be real.
Don't be
Yeah.
contradictory here.
So I think the other thing for me with regard to the body image issues is the fact that Josie is so busty and buxom. Like, it is presented like people are very affirming of it. But for me, I found that it was used at times as kind of a shorthand for like womanliness or seduction or this maturity beyond her years, in a way that there's a lot of commentary about like, oh, you have no idea the effect you have on men. And it's like, I'm literally just like, this is a Wendy's. Like, I'm literally just standing here with my tits. And
Ugh.
that's something where, of the people I have known that matured early or have big assets, like, being reduced down to just your parts is a little dehumanizing. And I
Yeah.
don't think that was the intention of this story. I think it was genuinely intended to be a very like, girl boss, you're stunning. Get those big tits out because they're great. But reading it sort of in this modern, I don't think it was intended to be that. But reading it in this sort of modern context, where I'm just
frame.
like, I think it ends up being where she is still 18.
And he's a lot older, right?
He's a lot older. And there's just, yeah, it was sort of like there were moments in the story where just because she's physically more mature, we're meant to imply, or kind of the feeling I got was that she's more actually mature, when not necessarily. That's not like
how it works.
the
That's not
brain
how it
cells
works.
are not stored in the bosoms. I mean, mine
Right.
are, but anyway. The other thing too, I think, about the age gap is I had less of a problem with like age gap, like as a trope. Like, it's not a hard stop for me. I've read much worse things. Much worse things.
Much worse.
No judgment. We listen, we don't judge.
Yes.
Hashtag problematic. But what I found interesting this time is Maine has been with all of these women, like 100 women. And when they are together for the first time, he's like, I've never been with a virgin. I don't
No.
believe that a guy that's like, you're telling me he's been with so many women and not a single one of them, like every single woman he's ever been with, was a virgin once. And you mean to tell me that none of them at any point were like, hey, Maine, actually, before you stick it in, could you give me like a finger? Could you just
Right.
like get your face down there? Could you like warm it up a little bit? Could
Well,
you like
especially
high
of the
five my
times.
vagina a little bit?
Yeah.
Could you like give it a pep talk? Should like get into it?
Make sure she's
Don't just be
prepared.
like, here I
Yeah.
am for the sex, ka-chow. Like, no.
Oh my gosh, is that the theme from Lightning McQueen?
Clip that.
Yes.
Clip that.
Ka-chow.
Here I,
I
am
am
for
speed.
the sex.
Listen,
Ciao.
listen. I'm
I
a
am
Cars
Lightning
marathon
McQueen.
survivor.
Yeah.
I mean,
Real
I'm
ones
in the
know.
thick of my marathon, so
You
right when you
know.
said ka-chow, I was like, oh my gosh, is Lightning McQueen here?
Mm-hmm. Ka-chow. And I don't remember clocking this at all when I first read it.
Yeah, that's
And I love awkward sex scenes. Like, I love
I know
bad
you
sex
do.
scenes.
You
Not
do.
bad
You
as you're like,
do.
oh no. But
Allie's
I love
lamenting.
awkward sex scenes where they're like, oh no, what if I put your leg here? Oh no, I kicked the lamp. Like, that's
Yeah.
fun. I will say, like, just some other, like, there's a lot of secondary parts in this book. There's a whole subplot with Maine's sister and the character named Darlington. And Darlington is the guy who originally coins the Scottish sausage nickname. And he repents of it. He kind of has his own arc. There's another subplot about these scandalous anonymous memoirs that have been published that everyone is like certain that they're based on Maine's exploits. He very clearly didn't write them. Somebody who's sort of familiar with him or like has heard a lot of rumors clearly did. They're very purple. But I think the bigger picture is that if this is a story that's about reputation, if the whole reason why they have to marry is to save her reputation, like the fact that like men can do all this crazy shit and have no real consequences to their reputation, and a woman has one guy assault her, and she's, I mean, like, I realize that's like the point of the story, but
Right. And the time too, right? Like that was women's reality back then.
Yeah. And so like I still enjoyed reading it. I think it's of its time. There's a lot of witty banter. There's a lot of social commentary. I think for me, this reread really highlighted a lot of opportunities for approaching some of those themes and topics more to my preferences. And what I take out of it in my own writing is just two things. One is that I'm really resonating more and being more intentional with writing heroines that are closer to my own current age, just because I have a really hard time connecting with an 18-year-old main character in this situation, which doesn't mean that nobody should write them. It just doesn't mean, it's just an apple pie. It's cool. Someone loves it. I love that for them.
Yeah.
But it intrigues me, and it makes me want to seek out stories that have women that are in their late 30s, early 40s, have seen a little bit more of the world, because I think the body image conversation at 40 is a little bit different than the body image conversation at 18 for a lot of people in a lot of different ways after a lot of different situations. And the other thing is, I think it really highlights that I do enjoy, there's a lot of sisterly support in here. There's a lot of like women supporting women sort of stuff in there. And I like that. I like to see more of that. And I also like to see more of, just we don't have to put down certain body types to make other body types feel good. Like women don't have to be on the altar to support other women, because the bigger problem is patriarchal body standards anyway. And like, ultimately, it's really not that revolutionary to have a hero be like, wow, an 18-year-old with big tits. Wow, I like her a lot. Like it's not as bold of a take as maybe it is. Ultimately, I do enjoy this book. I remember the other books being very charming as well. And I like her writing. I think Eloisa James is really she's always a fun read. And there's always a lot of like literary, like there's a lot of Shakespeare references in here. Isn't she like a English professor? Wasn't that originally where she came from?
All of these brilliant scholarly ladies. I just love being surrounded by you.
But yeah, it's very much I think it's a book of the time, and it has its really good qualities, and also just makes me go like, okay, I like this trope, but I like it done maybe slightly this other way. So
it's so interesting, the three different like wide range, without talking to each other, very different genres. And so like just seeing where the books and where the industry was and how we've changed in our perceptions. Because again, like you were saying, Marie, like spoiler alert, you aren't the same as you were when you were 18. So like how you perceive the world is way different than then. It's not right or wrong. It's just different based on your lived experiences. So it's just very interesting that there's both axes going on like a graph. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where it's like, not only are you a different person, but the industry was different. And so it's just been really great, this conversation about our what jumped out at us, what we noticed, and our takeaways. So we hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. But yeah. So thank you for coming on that little journey with us. What did you call it, Marie? Slapback?
Throwbacks that slap.
Well, thank you for joining us. That brings us to our last segment, Happy Endings. Who's going to go first?
Hey.
Not it.
Amber, why don't you go first?
I mean, I'll go first. When this airs, it'll be later, but this is the week of Thanksgiving. And I am really thankful for friends and family. I know this is like a repeat for me, but it's just been really hard with Patrick being gone. And so Patrick's family is coming over on Thursday, and they are like organizing all the food without even bringing me into the conversation. So there's no mental load. I can't tell you how much that relieves of the pressure of hosting. Yes. So they're going to come. That's helpful people. Like, they will help clean up, and it's not like a large group, maybe 10, a little more. But I'm just so thankful that we're still getting together. I feel capable of hosting. And then Daddy Robot is going to be able to make an appearance for the time difference. So that'll be really fun.
Good.
So thank you, friends and family, for just accommodating us and coming to us this year, because it's just the holidays are hard for everyone normally, and we don't have Patrick this year, which is an extra element. So making it a little easier, not only for Lachlan to be in his own house with his own stuff, but also just for me, not having to travel with a dog and a toddler.
It's a lot of executive functioning and organization
That's a
to like
lot.
make that happen.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
To
So
like
I'm-
probably
glad
not
there's no
sleep that
happening.
well, right? Because he's not gonna be in his own bed, and
Yeah.
it's a whole thing.
It's a whole
Yeah.
thing. And then
It's
too,
really
like,
overstimulating.
it can
like,
be.
the holiday.
Yes. And then if I'm a little more relaxed, Lachlan's relaxed, he can go down, and then maybe, heaven forbid, mom can relax herself with a glass of wine during nap time and
Hell
like
yeah.
actually interact with the family members.
Yes.
And then before someone else goes, I have a quick extra one from our last episode. I don't know what this says about me that I was influenced by our own podcast and Allie, but I got myself a notebook, Hobonichi
Yeah,
High.
girl.
And look at how
you
cute this little
did.
collage is that Allie helped
I
me
love
with.
that.
It looks so good, Amber.
Thank you so much.
It's so
and for
cute.
helping me figure out Canva. This gives me so much joy. And I'm
Yay.
writing in it more. So just thank you, Allie. Thank
You're
you, Smut and
welcome.
Sensibility, for being here. I know that sounds
is
weird
So cute.
because
No, that's
I'm 1/3
adorable.
of it, but I
You're
would have never
always
thought of
here.
this. I would have never thought of this. So
It's cute.
It's just fun. Yeah, it's fun. And I have mine right here.
twins.
Just like, sometimes, like you said, when you're like on the couch in quiet time in the evening, the laptop is very exciting,
Yeah,
know,
and we can't do
and
it
we
right
can't
now.
do that.
But
So
he lets
sometimes
me
having
write.
this and just like, I have just like random shit in here that, is not super organized, but it's like any goes down in there, and just having the room to kind of like do the big picture thinking. Cause like, I need to think on paper.
Yeah,
I can't.
So you're part of my happy ending this week, Allie. So thank you.
Yeah.
All right, girls. Who's next? Marie, I'm calling on you. Teacher
can
has
go.
spoken.
Yeah. I would say this week, it's the week of Thanksgiving, and I think just really simple pleasures. I'm just really grateful for simple pleasures. I'm going to hang out with a friend tomorrow night, and we're going to try to make little like witchy Yule decorations this year.
I
Cute.
love
Both
that.
of us were like, we don't want to decorate. Like, I'm not religious. I celebrate, secular Christmas, but just kind of getting together. And so we're going to go to our local little witchy store and go to the craft store and make some garlands and hang out.
I love the Yule decorate. Like I love like the dried oranges and like just like that very like natural, rustic, like holiday decor. That's definitely my vibe. My happy endings this week, I have like two. Number one is definitely like how generous the romance community is with like their time, their spirit, their enthusiasm, especially like romance authors are so kind and so generous with their time. And like we have had some really great interviews that we've recorded already, and those will be released in the coming weeks, or some might have actually already been released by the time that you listen to this. And we have like some really fun ones coming up in Q1 of 2026. And so I'm just really appreciative for people like yes-anding this podcast.
Yeah.
Because we are doing it and we're taking time, but just to have people be like, yay, this is fun. And we like what you have to say. And just having a conversation is really fun. And like you said, Marie, that's one of the cool things about the internet. There are things that I am wary about with the internet for sure. But I think one of the really cool things is it just connects you with so many different people and people that you would never normally meet, but you have interests in common. And
I mean, look at us. We would have never met without an internet community, which is wild.
I know. It's so true. So I think I'm feeling really grateful for that and just the generosity of people's time and their enthusiasm and spirit this week. And I'm also feeling really grateful for my friends at work. They're also super supportive, and I'm going to be working a ton. So just like being able to go to work, but like hang out with my friends and like talk to my friends and have a good time. And we have like our little rituals that we do and our little coffee breaks and whatever, and just like little goalposts to look forward to in the day. And just, even though sometimes work can be hard and like emotionally draining, being like, hey, I get to go see my friends and I get to talk to my friends, and that like feels really good. So just, I guess, community, romance community, work community, feeling grateful for all of that. Thank you guys so much for listening. This was a fun throwback episode, and just getting to know a little bit more about the books that sort of imprinted on us for one reason or another. And you can go ahead and follow us on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube at Smut and Sensibility Pod. We are also on Blue Sky, and you can have our link below in the link tree. And then you can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And if you haven't yet, please go ahead and give us a 5-star review. Thank you to those of you who already have. It really helps us connect with our community and find more people that love romance and are interested in romance reading and writing, and just helps us build our community. So thank you guys so much for being here. Hope you stay safe, stay smutty, and go forth in pursuit of your happily ever after. Bye.
Bye.